Garrison Keillor is going away to be unfamous again. Our report from Lake Wobegon is from Fred Sam Lazaro of public station KTCA, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Oh, look who's coming through that door. I think we met somewhere before. Hello, love. Hello, love.
Garrison Keillor began last Saturday's Prairie Home Companion like the hundreds before it, with the familiar composition, Hello, Love.
Oh, hello, everybody, and welcome to a Prairie Home Companion.
But not long after receiving their welcome, the audience of radio's most popular variety show in decades heard its first ever report from Lake Wobegon that was not fiction.
A Prairie Home Companion will be closing up shop at the end of this season. On June the 13th will be our last live show. The decision is mine, and it's one of those very simple and painful decisions that we learn to make cheerfully.
The announcement was greeted with pin-drop silence by the sellout crowd in St. Paul's World Theater. Perhaps stunned, perhaps, as Keillor might observe, they were like him, just shy people.
He's worked here really all of his working life, and yet 3 times previously he has stopped for almost precisely the same reasons. Time to collect himself, time to take a look at another lifestyle, time to try to write something that he has in the back of his mind.
William Kling, founder and president of Minnesota Public Radio, hired Garrison Keillor as morning disc jockey in 1968. He later allowed him to add the Saturday evening live variety show to his duties.
Each of the times that he's left in the past, we have been left with a marvelous legacy of what he had done. We've been left with an audience that is substantially greater than we would have had otherwise.
That legacy began 13 years ago in a small college auditorium before about a dozen people. The mixture of folk music and Keillor's humor especially quickly made the Prairie Home Companion a big hit in Minnesota.
Sometimes I feel so boring and so full of guilt. Why was I born Scandinavian? The food is bad, winter is unbearable, but theology is enough to break a man's heart.
Join us now as your friends at Kierkegaard Hardware present Lutheran Whispers.
With the advent of satellite distribution in the early 1980s, the Prairie Home Companion went national and its audience numbers soared. Although still with a liberal dose of music, the show's clear attraction soon became Keillor's monologue, the news from Lake Wobegon, his fictional central Minnesota hometown.
Those people always used to wonder whatever I was going to do for a living. And then when they found out how I was going to earn a living by talking about them, they were sorry they asked.
He was able to take his writing gifts and combine them with a medium that was almost forgotten and create a certain magic that really spoke to a lot of people's yearnings for an earlier time, a simpler time, a past that they probably didn't have but wish they might have.
Rick Shevchik is a TV and radio critic for the St. Paul Pioneer Press Dispatch.
I think a Prairie Home Companion somewhat idealized what happens here, but just about every work of fiction idealizes something or other. And Keillor was successful at working off of his roots the way many, many great writers have been successful working off of their roots.
Of course, I was brought up to be skeptical about these things. And you would be too, if you'd ever gone to the Mist County Fair on a hot afternoon in July and watched about 10, 12 young men compete in the pie-eating contest.
Keillor's monologues proved so popular, a collection in print was a bestseller for 44 weeks in 1984, a year in which his show was also celebrating its 10th anniversary. It was soon after that anniversary and the subsequent bestseller that columnist Shevchik believes was the turning point for Keillor, when the show ceased to be fun enough.
Keillor always said that what he wanted was to be able to walk down the streets of St. Paul and be treated like any other friend or neighbor that he happened to run into. And of course that was impossible as long as he was at the peak of his celebrity.
Keillor has kept a low profile and granted no interviews since announcing his departure. In recent weeks, he has talked about devoting more time to writing and about moving to his new wife's native Denmark.
He's made his decision that he's leaving, and he's going to try some new ways of living. I suspect he's going to do a wide range of things he's never done before. And if he enjoys doing those things, that's what he will do. If in the process of doing those things he decides that he'd like to do some broadcasting again, the door's open, and I hope he'll come back.
It's come time for us to say thank you very much, and then to sit down, which we will do cheerfully on June the 13th, and go out in style.